In the cold, remote farmlands of Bavaria, Germany, there once stood a lonely house that would become the setting of one of the most disturbing unsolved crimes in history. A place where 6 lives ended violently, and where the killer may have lived among their corpses for days afterward. This isn't a campfire legend. This is a true story, one that investigators, historians, and locals still whisper about more than a century later. This is the story of the Hinterkaifeck murders. Hinterkaifeck wasn't even on most maps. The farmhouse stood in isolation, about 70 kilometers north of Munich, miles from the nearest neighbor. Surrounded by dense woods on one side and endless fields on the other, it was the kind of place where silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. Inside lived the Gruber family, Andreas, the stubborn and strong-willed patriarch, his wife Kazilia, quiet but hard-working, their widowed daughter Victoria, still young but hardened by life, and Victoria's 2 children, sweet, bright-eyed 7-year-old Kazilia and her younger brother Joseph, barely 2 years old. That winter had been unusually harsh. Snow still lay across the fields in late March, and travel was slow and difficult. But one morning, Andreas stepped outside to tend to the animals and froze. In the fresh snow, a single set of footprints led out of the dark forest straight toward his farmhouse. The prints were clear, crisp, and recent. But what unsettled him most was what he didn't see. No footprints leading back. Andreas followed them to his front door, checked the yard, circled the barn, but found nothing missing. The doors were locked. Everything was in place. He brushed it off, but something gnawed at him. That night, as the family settled in, the air inside the house seemed different, heavier, colder. Later, they heard it, faint at first, the creak of a wooden board somewhere above their heads. Then a slow, deliberate shuffling. The sounds were coming from the attic. Andreas grabbed a lantern and climbed the ladder. His breath clouded in the frigid air as the dim light danced across the rafters. Nothing, just empty space, the smell of old wood, and silence. He went back down, but the unease lingered. The noises returned the next night, and the night after that. Then there were other signs. Andreas found an unfamiliar newspaper on the property. Keys to the house had gone missing. In the barn, he discovered a strange, deep scratch on the tool shed door, as if someone had tried to pry it open. On March 31st, the family's new maid, Maria Baumgartner, arrived for her first day of work. She was 44, cheerful, and eager to start. She replaced the previous maid, who had quit abruptly, claiming the house was cursed or haunted. Maria laughed at the story, but when she unpacked her things in the small bedroom, the stillness of the farmhouse felt almost watchful. That evening, the sun dipped below the trees, and darkness swallowed the farm. No one knows the exact sequence of events that followed, but sometime in the night, the killer made their move. One by one, the family members were drawn into the barn. Some say the killer lured them out by imitating an animal's distress, knowing they would come to investigate. Others believe the killer attacked one person first, forcing the others to rush to their aid. In the barn, under the cover of darkness, each victim was bludgeoned with a mattock, a heavy farming tool. Andreas was struck first, his skull shattered. His wife, Kazilia, followed. Victoria's injuries were so severe that even seasoned investigators struggled to look. Little Kazilia, just 7 years old, survived the initial blows. She lay in the hay, surrounded by the bodies of her family, pulling at her own hair in agony until she finally died hours later. Inside the house, Maria and little Joseph were killed in their beds. No one outside the farm heard the screams. The next morning, the farm didn't look abandoned. In fact, it looked normal. For the next 4 days, smoke rose steadily from the chimney. The animals were fed, the cows milked. Fresh bread was baked in the kitchen. Neighbors even saw a faint light moving from room to room at night. Whoever had slaughtered the Grubers had decided to stay. 4 days later, concerned neighbors finally went to check on the family. They found the front door locked. In the barn, beneath a pile of hay, they uncovered the bodies of Andreas, his wife, Victoria, and little Kazilia. Inside the house, they found Maria and baby Joseph. The killer was gone. Police were baffled. The murders had been committed with precision, but the killer had also lingered, feeding animals, cooking meals, tending the house. Was this a sign of madness or familiarity? Dozens of suspects were questioned. A neighbor with a grudge, a former lover of Victoria's, even vagrants passing through the woods. One theory suggested that the killer had been living in the attic for days, maybe weeks, watching the family, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Despite endless speculation, no one was ever convicted. And in 1923, the Hinterkaifeck farmhouse was demolished. But some say the land remembers. On certain cold, snowy nights, locals claim you can still see a single trail of footprints leading from the forest to the place where the house once stood. What do you think happened on that farm? Was it someone the family knew? Or a stranger hiding in the shadows? Share your theory in the comments. And if you want more true horror stories, subscribe, because some of them might be closer to home than you think.